Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Greubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. I am Crystal Wing, and I am here with the amazing Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And the magnificent Robin Greubel.
Greetings.
We love your questions. And here was another one submitted. And it says, we're getting right in this. You ready?
We are. There's boom. Mission. Yeah.
Go for it. Can you tell? I'm like, let's go.
Caffeinated.
So they're interested in hearing our opinions on reinforcing the act of sniffing during a search. So here's what they said. In my mind, this would be in an area that has odor fairly early on in training, or anytime later if you see frustration creeping in and you want to tell them that searching more is what you want. Specifically, I could see myself maybe wanting to reinforce in two scenarios. One of them is the act of moving on to find a new source. And the second one is the continued sourcing for a long time for an individual team. So the frustration starts to creep in. So as soon as I read that, my brain says, if the frustration has already crept in, that's not the time to reinforce. So my reinforcement red alarms go off like, nope, don't do it then. You've missed your moment. You've missed your point. Don't reinforce because, well, now you're getting all kinds of naughtiness in your chain. And we don't want those feelings of frustration and all of that happening. And then we kind of chatted just briefly, and we really started talking about self-employment. And that's where I'm going to let y'all start kind of going in because we were at it. So let's keep going.
Yeah, we were just like, wait a minute, we got to hit record. Yeah, that whole rewarding for just sniffing is the whole danger, Will Robinson danger, because yet again, do you have scent goggles? And do you know that that is exactly where odor is presenting? Or that mean, welcome to like being on the farm. Or is that happen to be the place where a raccoon decided to have a dust bath or something? I don't know if raccoons have dust baths.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so you don't want to reinforce that if they're finding that at that moment they've hit like a really strong critter smell. You don't want to reward that moment.
Correct. No, I do not want to really reward that moment.
I'm sorry.
That's like catfish bait. If they maybe smelled that along the way,
right. Or, getting reinforced for sniffing catfish bait or something like that. You really, really don't know what they're sniffing.
That's if you know people have been listening, if they know that story.
They do. Yeah, exactly.
We just rewarded our longtime listeners.
Or if you came to distraction camp ever.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, you'll know that one.
That's one thing. I do know people and have seen it where people will use an encouragement good to work out problems. I use those sparingly.
Yeah. That's a keep going.
Right. Because me just saying good is now indicating to the dog, I know where odor's at. Hey,
Also,
stick in this area, and it's a crutch.
Yeah. Also, it means that you haven't trained your dog to keep searching until you say stop searching.
Correct.
So it means you've somehow taught or reinforced your dog for quitting.
Correct.
And if you're having to encourage your dog to keep going, it means you've taught your dog to quit. So that's actually from a training perspective where I would focus if you've got that kind of a situation going on rather than.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean you've taught them to quit? Because I like what you're saying there, but I want you to clarify some more.
Yeah. And you could do that in a number of different ways. So for instance, if you've given your dog something too challenging too often, and basically they just kind of, out of frustration, they just kind of tune out or they start doing kind of their own thing.
They self-employ.
Self-employ, exactly. You haven't built enough reinforcement. You don't have a good enough reinforcement system. You're asking your dog to do something in excess of what honestly their drive can carry through. Pushing your dog too hard, all of these things.
Too fast, too long, too soon. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You've taken over the search so much that you haven't built independence in your dog. I mean, there's a huge list that you can just kind of.
And I also see that in some of it when people set hides above their dog's pay grade.
Yeah.
Right. And now, and I had this problem with Bristol for a while because I was setting things above her pay grade and I was requiring her to work stuff on leash. And 29 seconds, because we timed it, at 29 seconds into the search, she'd turn and look at me and be like, okay, what are we going to do now? If you're not careful, you can absolutely teach the dog that's part of the chain. Or if you've taught the dog, well, it's all clear. So no, come back and sit next to me.
Oh my God. I just wrote that down to say people
actually,
brain meld.
Okay, occasionally comes up. Should I teach an all clear to my dog? No. Don't.
No. Hell no.
You know what? I think all of us have had a little bit of caffeine today.
No all clear cues. Please, you teach your dog to quit by doing that. That is a quit cue.
Right.
An all clear cue is a quit cue.
Yes. And so don't do that.
Don't teach your dog to quit.
And so one of the things that like this question made me really think about is the whole concept of what systematic searching. I want you to continue. And this is one of the reasons that I use like the brick walls and stuff like that is go search the thing, go search the car, go search the set of drawers, go search whatever until I tell you to stop. And that's a way that I teach that concept. And it comes into a nose time.
Yep.
We have some guests that are going to be coming up that we're really, really super excited about, but we'll be talking about extended searching and how that is actually a very much needed skill. And Nico has taught me very clearly that he has about a 3-minute nose time if he's been sitting in the car really long. He's like, dude, 3 minutes, I can find anything. Let me just find something. And so that's my new training goal for over this winter is to start working on, you may get out, you may do one search today. And guess what? We're going to be out there for 20 minutes, which is incredibly boring for the handler. So anyway, it doesn't make our little joyful reinforcement hearts sing when we have.
I was thinking about the blank area and just in general, the frustrations that our dog feels. And it kind of goes back to Stacy saying about when we're almost overfacing them or their drive isn't there enough to handle it. That was immediately what my brain was going to, was the frustration that starts building in. So if we're not reading our dog and they're telling us there's nothing here, and then we just keep at it. So of course they're not going to want to search a new area. And also our body pressure. And when she basically was saying we're up their ass, like that's another problem too, is that we're not giving them the space to move on sometimes. And we're not realizing that we're not giving them the space and we're kind of trapping them in a space. And I loved how, was it T-Mac that said about the 2 times in one space and you move?
Yes.
I don't remember. Okay. Yeah. So it's T-Mac that, Teresa McPherson, sorry, that if they're doing the same thing twice, they're doing the exact same pattern, then move your body. And it doesn't take much. I love it. It just takes like literally, I will just turn my body 45 degrees. And I think this is where people that do agility and they do directionals, and they do things that the dog has to rely on the handler's body movement. Just that slight 30 or 45 degree turn is enough to break them out of that for most dogs, if there's that connection that you already have.
Right. Yep. And I think that it's one of the problems when, if you are working too close to your dog, you can't see when they're doing those chains of behaviors because they might be running an eddy or something. And because you've gone full frontal on your hide.
Oh boy, here we go again.
I know, right? That is something that traps your dog in that very, very location. And they can't necessarily, unless you have a really strong dog that basically says, here, hold my beer. I'm going to go search over here because you're an idiot. They won't leave that particular area. So you can't necessarily do that. And that's one of the things that we address a lot with our handlers in the intentional handling and hide setting class that we're doing in July.
This specific thing, to me, it's a little bit of that part's a little bit of a frustration because when we are projecting an area with our body, which also means the closer we are to the dog, the more influence we have on the dog. And when we go, full frontal, which is squaring your feet at the dog, right? We are communicating to the dog.
Actually. At the dog
hide,
and
at the hide, at the dog, wherever they are, right? We're telling the dog, stay right there. What we're actually doing in that case, this is my source of frustration, is that we're taking the dog's autonomy away. We're not giving the dog the right of dismissal. And we're not allowing the dog to say nothing here.
Right.
And that for me is that's the source of frustration. I'm just like, just release a little bit of pressure. The dog's like, oh, thank goodness we can leave. We can leave this odor pool. Like, there's nothing here. I'm sorry. That gets in rant territory for me.
Soapbox. Here you go.
Soapbox.
Right. And so when we start thinking about when to praise and when not to praise, when the dog is in odor, and I was at a law enforcement conference, and it was really interesting because one of the things that you're taught is you present and then you say good when your dog puts their nose, or you say up and the dog goes up and checks up and you say good. How do you really know that the dog is actually equating that good with what you're doing, with what they're doing? Right. I mean, it was just one of those things where if you think about some of those times where you've presented or you're moving your dog through an area and they did something that you liked. So you looked at them and you went, good. And they looked at you and said, for what?
Yeah. Or if you have a very handler focused dog, I can see that creating false alert problems.
Right. Right. It creates handler dependence.
Yeah.
Right. And it became very cognizant of me if I was talking to make myself feel better. And it wasn't necessarily communicating what I needed to do or what I wanted the dog to do. And then you watch somebody like Jens Frank train who never speaks.
I have to say, I am guilty of sometimes talking out loud, but it is really just cogitation out my mouth. And it's just kind of process information. And my dogs are like, yeah, she's just talking to herself right now.
It's
like,
mental processing. Right.
It's mental processing. And my dogs like totally tune it out because they know it's not, I'm not telling them anything. I'm just like processing.
Right. But if
I purposely add that in because I'm thinking,
yes,
I can't make quiet. I can't make everybody shut up, but I can make chatter and I can make noise happen. That's just blank noise. It's just white music or white. It was like white noise. That's what it's called. Yeah.
White noise.
Or when we're searching, like out in the woods with prize, like we have to yell, right?
Right. Yes.
We're yelling the subject's name. We're yelling search and rescue. We're using attraction techniques, right? So the dog actually has to learn how to completely tune that out because you're yelling and you're not
yelling at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So we can always add noise. Can't take it away.
Right. It's part of also my philosophy of, do I do it when I'm teaching? Do I do it when I'm training? Or do I do it when I'm testing? That's a training scenario. Right.
Right.
Well, teaching might be really quiet. Then is when I get into teaching and into training, then it comes in as distraction and diversions and all sorts of things.
I was thinking about it in the teaching phase as the distraction.
I have to teach the whole, here's me. I'm like, no, we must teach it first. So it's awesome. And then we can start adding in the weird stuff.
Yeah.
So,
you have to use all 6 Ds. And once you get through.
Someday when we get brave enough, we'll actually start doing the Zoom version of the podcast so people can see the death look that Crystal just gave us.
It was not a death look. I just made my lips a little tighter than usual.
It was. I should have screenshotted that one.
I know. So
I never get mad. I think you guys are silly.
So it's really interesting for me to think about how much do we really think, because this is what this question is asking, right? If we are giving the dog reinforcement or we're communicating to the dog when we don't actually know what stimuli the dog is perceiving,
right?
We run the risk of reinforcing the wrong thing.
This also kind of gets to, and I think this is kind of what you're talking about, just trying to understand, clarify.
Yeah.
And we're kind of talking about or what's in my head is the same thing as what you're saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, that it comes down to what sort of focus is your dog giving. So random self-employment sniffing is environmental focus.
Right.
It's not task focus, which is your search focus, right? So if your dog is, because sniffing is just a part of dogs just exploring the environment. If they're in environmental focus, they're not working. So is your dog actively working, meaning they're in task focus, or are they self-employing? And can you tell the difference? And I think unless you can actually tell the difference, you run a very high risk of reinforcing something you don't want to increase what
Yes.
reinforcement is, increase the likelihood of it happening again. You don't want to increase environmental focus, which could be crittering, it could be sniffing dog pee or whatever.
And I think it's really, and Crystal mentioned if you think frustration has already moved in and they're doing something, you've pushed your training a little too far outside of your dog's wheelhouse. And I would rather see people stop the training session and reset their hide or do something else versus, I mean, the last thing you could probably write one of the tenets from the Canine Detection Collaborative, do not walk your dog into the hide.
That's a good one.
And so I just am like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that also kind of comes into, if I am watching a dog that is obviously working odor, we know it's working odor because it's a big odor and they're giving us they're dismissing and showing us the edges. If I have to give them a good, it's because I'm basically pulling an emergency rope, an emergency cord, and I feel like I need to do that. I would almost rather click nose close to odor than give them a verbal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's me. That's how I train. There's a whole bunch of other ways to train.
Yeah.
I want to keep going with what Stacy was talking about with the focus. And we were so lucky to have Deb Jones on. And we talked about grief back when she was with us. And hopefully we can have her on again because she's written the books on focus.
And she's done a lot of recent work on focus and is splitting it out into a lot of different types of focus that maybe folks haven't really thought about.
Yeah. So if you want to look her stuff up, it's called Focus Unified Field Theory. And she has 4 types of focus that she has narrowed it down to. And this is years and years of research and learning and study. Like she is the focus guru here, right? And so she talks about external focus, self-focus, trainer focus, and task focus. And we talk a lot about how the dog can't really have split focus. Nobody can. You're just shifting back and forth very quickly. And you're trying to figure out at what point do you want your dog to have what focus. And so I just wanted to kind of pull that back in to give some people some resources to look through. But when you're talking about the external focus, that's the things in the environment that are easily drawing our dog's attention. It's the salient things in their environment. So especially when those things are tempting or interesting. When we talk about self-focus, that's the dogs that are focusing on how they are feeling, as well as on what they're physically doing with their bodies. And then the trainer focus, it's usually kind of our preferred focal point a lot of times. And so we think about that a lot, is about when the dog's focusing on our cues and the information we're providing. And the task focus is what we want a lot in detection, is where the dog's performing a well-understood behavior or skill with minimal direction from the trainer. And so we ask them to keep us kind of in an earshot, or just enough that we are part of that engaged focus story. And so I just wanted to kind of pull that back in because I thought it fit nicely with what Stacy was saying about where is your dog's attention, because they have to be task focused, but then they also have to have that little twinge of trainer focus.
That one ear.
Yeah. But if they're not feeling well, or things are not going well for themselves, their bodies, or they're feeling too excited or not enough, then that becomes the self-focus. And then we're losing the ability that they can have, because focus is a finite skill. And so when you're talking about the frustration, it might be frustration because your dog is becoming externally focused, or they might be self-focused. Are they healthy? Are they feeling well? Is the environment too hard? Are you overfacing them with all these different things? And thinking about all those layers of focus and attention we're asking, I think it's important to think about those. So I just wanted to kind of go in that a little deeper.
No, I think that's a link to her stuff will be in the show notes, because I have a lot of clients who have teenage detection dogs, right? And they're trying to talk through what they should be doing. So those understanding what the dog's focus is, and then literally what gerbil did you get today?
Yeah.
It's really important.
Well, she breaks it down so well. Like she has her 5 interaction categories and like,
nice.
So
I
she's
guess
spent a lot of time on that. A lot of time.
Basically, if you think we should have her back on, let us know, because I think so much of this applies and we can like be, hey, Deb, you need to come back. Let's go.
I get a vote. I think we should have her back on.
I vote yes. I vote
yes. We don't care what the listeners think.
No.
Yeah, whatever.
This is all about us, right?
We're just along for the ride anyway.
All of this has me kind of thinking about one of the things I love about my dog Prize is her focus. She just has this one track mind for target odor, and she honestly won't even have a change of behavior on anything that's not in her list of target odor. And so I just want to kind of mention that, because I start thinking about what I have to do with her with air scent and what she has to work through over a long period of time. When we did our certification, our first search was 85 acres. It was 84 acres. Sorry, I'm exaggerating. It was 84 acres. And a good portion of that, she's not going to have odor. I mean, granted, she does have changes of behavior like 1,000 feet away, but still, you've got large portions of area in the woods, no odor, and lots of wildlife. I think we had a big flock of geese. She flushed right around her, and she just didn't even pay any attention. We've searched where, I know rattlesnake, we've had
task focused,
right? So she's seeing out wildlife. So she's not even having to be in odor to stay focused. And she's doing that for an extended period of time. But this isn't one of those things where, granted, she's an awesome dog, but you do have to build up to that. And I think what we have to be careful of is that we don't take a dog that doesn't have the reinforcement system or the drive to sustain that and put them in a situation where we're saying, okay, now we need you to work in this highly distracting environment for a long period of time and have no reinforcement available and stay focused, right?
I know I've had pushback on people who believe that working blinds in training isn't good because they just work them on deployments or blanks. And I look at it they only work blanks on deployment.
So never in training?
Never in training.
Oh, wow. I didn't know people did that. Okay.
Yes.
That sounded judgy. I didn't mean that to be so judgy. I'm so sorry.
It's their philosophy on training.
And I'm going back and say, I'm not being judgy. That was true. Like, oh, okay. So I wanted to clarify that.
I've had to think about, I spent some time thinking about this, and I was like,
yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm kind of noodling this right now.
Right.
And I think I may understand why they're saying that, but I'm also thinking like, yeah, but you have to be able to recognize when it's blank.
And the other thing is, let's be cognizant of the fact that actually long nose time, when we train long nose time, is in effect training a possibility of a blank first.
Yeah.
Right. And then the blank is reinforced by running into odor, which is how I create the understanding of nose time. I use odor to reinforce hunting.
So that's kind of like, you gave me a lot of mentoring past year, Robin. And I remember having a conversation with you about larger areas and nose time. And we were talking about, like 80 acres. And your conversation was, it's just 2 40-acre areas.
Right.
The first 40-acre area is just blank.
Right.
Right.
And the second 40-acre happens to have a hide in it, and you might get all the way to the last 5 acres before you get it.
Right.
So, and some of that is mentally to help the person.
Yeah. Not feel overwhelmed
with all of it, because that's what happens. But we also have to understand when you're going out to do a nosework search, or you're going out to do we were doing cadaver dog searches, and we had one day where basically you turned the dog on and, like they're a light switch, whatever. we started in our search area and we were out in our search area for 5 hours.
Yeah.
They had little micro breaks, but they didn't have a go back into the car, get shut down, all of that sort of stuff. The next day we go to a different area and it's like, okay, we just need you to work this area. You get out of the car, you work for 10 minutes, you go back in the car.
Wow.
Right. And so the dogs have to be able to do both in my line of work.
Yeah.
Or when I'm doing bomb dog stuff, oh, hey, I need you to be on for your first 20 minutes or actually first hour where we do all of the really high searching stuff. Now we're going to go sit at the gate and be more passive. But if something interesting walks by, you still got to tell me about it.
Yeah.
That stuff's hard to train for.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of deliberate setup.
In competition, we do a lot of, people should be doing blanks in their training, partially because the behavior that your dog exhibits in a blank area is actual behavior. It's not lack of behavior. And if you're not actively training blank areas, you're not going to recognize what your dog's behavior is when the area is blank, because it's not, I think sometimes people think it's the lack of a behavior, but it's not. They actually have specific behaviors. So if you're not training blanks, you're not going to see those things. Even when we're working prize, and if I'm exploring an area, like I start to move in, I can see that it's a negative. And then I know to move out. So you have to be able to recognize that, because it's the only way that you're going to clear your area. Whether you're clearing a nosework area or you're clearing, wilderness or whatever, you've got to be able to see the difference.
Well, and it was really interesting.
Go ahead.
Okay. This was my little brain. Oh my God. Right? Because Flash.
Yeah.
And having a discussion that a lot of the time when your dog does change of behavior, the change of behavior looks similar when it is a novel odor as to when it is target odor or
Can
something.
Be, yes, absolutely.
Right, or something that they are interested in. And that was one of those really interesting things that came out and whacked me up the backside of the head last week. When we were doing a open area search with Flash, she's got like 6 bullets out in a half an acre area that we're hunting. And we're going along. There's a nice little wind. All of a sudden, she zips off, goes and sticks her nose in something. I'm doing it blind. And she investigates. And I'm walking over there because I'm like, oh my God, she found it. And she picks her heads up and takes off and runs away. And I look at Alyssa and Elizabeth and I'm like,
novel odor.
She just walked odor. And they're like, no, she's fine. And I'm like, oh. And then they forgot where they put the bullets.
Oh.
And so we're actually working
GPS
area, right? And we're trying to find them. And Flash is like, oh, hey, sniff, 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 sit. And she has a very fast sit. And then she's like, hey, Mom, they're right here, you stupid person. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there they are.
A double blind.
Right. So, but it goes back to if I had thought, because it was really funny because they're like, well, it's by the dandelion. We're in Iowa. In a yard.
By the dandelion. Are you kidding me?
Where she was interested in before was also by a dandelion. And so if I had thought that she was on odor and I gave her a good, I just probably reinforced her for sniffing raccoon pee.
Probably.
Or something.
Probably. I mean, I had a couple of those in the summit trial with Brava where she would have a change of behavior and it was for a drop piece of food on the ground.
Right.
Dogs will have a change of behavior on food. They're like, ooh, what's that? And she's a scavenger anyway, so she's going to do that. So I can't and that's where the dismissal is so important, right?
Sniff and dismiss.
So you've got to let them dismiss so that they go in, they're like, nope, that's not what I'm looking for. And if you build the odor obedience and you have the reinforcement, all the reinforcement, all that built in, then they should commit to it. So.
Well, and it kind of goes back to this whole concept of don't reinforce them for self-employing.
Yeah.
And
clean behavior chains.
Right.
Clean
what do we mean by self-employing? Anyone?
Doing their thing.
It's doing what you want to do. It's the salient thing in your world. So it's whatever's grabbing your attention the most. So it's that kind of bottom to top thinking instead of top down.
Right. So what's that look like?
Yukon rolling in shit.
Yes.
That was the first thing that popped in my mind.
Yeah.
I actually just
that could
shared
definitely do
on
it.
my CB Canine group. I just shared, it was a cute little comic that I found. And it was like, why does my dog like rolling in the grass so much? And it had all the little blades of grass being like little humans. They're
saw
reaching their
that.
hands up like, I'm going to pet you. And the dog's like, okay. And they roll around in the grass and then, all the little grass is petting them. So now that's my visual when I see them rolling in the grass, which makes me smile a little bit more instead of being so annoyed when they should be task oriented.
Eating rabbit poop in the backyard. That's like my nemesis right now. Like rabbit poop.
Well, and I think of one of the things that I think of, because Nico always needs a job. And I've actually come to realize that Flash always needs a job. Bristol always needs a job. So does
all
Flair. All my dogs always need a job. So literally,
all of mine do too, for different reasons.
But it comes back to, if I'm standing and having a conversation with somebody and I told my dog to be in a sit, that is now their job, because I need them focused. If we're going to go off and go do a thing.
Yep.
Right. I now need them focused of, okay, let's go do a thing. Their job is to sit there. They are under a stimulus control of a sit cue. They are not running out in the road. They are not pulling on my leash. They are not running over to say hi to the chickens. They're not self-employing on whatever is of interest in the world at this moment.
A simple example, I'm working on my downward checkmate. Not right now, but in the past. And so when I go back to my little grass story, it's just a long ass down is what we call it. We put a little trademark on it, right? Because it's just silly. But they have to be down while the other dog does the entire competition on the field. And so you put your dog in a down, you walk 20 paces away, you turn your back to them, and then the other dog does their entire thing with their handler. And then you return to your dog after the send away. So the other dog is doing either, not the send away, but a recall, I'm sorry. So you do a recall from 30 paces away, and it's pretty exciting stuff. And building that duration up, I lumped it too much. And so he would lose focus of lay down and stare at mom, because I want him staring holes in the back of me because he needs a job to understand.
So you're facing away from your dog during all of this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you walk 20 paces away and you continue facing away. So they're looking at your back. And then in the upper levels, you're in a blind. So you're in behind like a piece of wood or a fabric blind, and they can't see you at all. And so then they're just out in the field laying down.
They're just like out of sight.
Right.
Yeah. And so they're doing their retrieves and their positions and running and all that fun stuff. And what I failed to do was to build up my duration in a systematic way. And so he would forget his job. And so he's laying there and he's like, well, this is a nice day. Oh, that's a nice smell. Oh, this would be nice to roll on. And I would use my phone and I'd hold it over my shoulder so I could look in my screen and I could watch him as I was doing this. And there was a couple times that I would lose focus. I mean, it's just, I'm watching the other dog because I'm also spotting them as a coach, and I'd lose focus of him. And I was like, you did such a good job, buddy. When I got back to him, oh, no, he didn't. His whole back is covered in grass clippings. That tells me the little jerk was over there rolling around and I missed it. And I say little jerk in a very loving way because
it's of course
it's silly, But it's like, oh man, you're over here rolling around and I missed it. Darn it. He's like, but funny. I'm good again. I'm focused.
I'm kind of thinking of it also like when I get ready to start prize on a problem and air scent. So I have her in a sit stay. This is where I'm like, you must be in a sit stay, because I put her in a sit stay. I take off her normal collar and her leash. Yeah, put that away. I have to walk into the woods. I have to check my wind direction. I've got to brief my flankers. I have to start my Garmin handheld, which, because they've changed the software, instead of hitting one button, you have to hit 12 to get that started.
Of course.
Yeah. Oh, don't even get me started. That I have to go through this whole process. And then I walk back to her and she's still sitting. And then I put my hand on her collar and I tell her, find. And then I release. And then she goes off and search. But that is the opportunity, because I have to do all of these things. And if she was self-employing, or even if she was on a leash and I was just holding her and she was kind of doing her thing or eating grass, or she's not getting into the...
She's not focused.
The mindset of work, right?
Right. She's not focused. I mean, because if they're self-employing, they're off doing whatever dog things interest them for whatever grasshopper jumped by.
Yeah.
Besides being, now it doesn't mean I want a robot. I don't want a robot because,
No.
but I need them. It's part of the, are you present with me?
Yeah. You need to build the desire to do the job.
Right.
I think the other important thing is that people need, and this comes down to reading your dog. So I think a lot of times people struggle with, are they self-employment sniffing or are they actively working? And I think being able to see the difference is really important. So when a dog starts to work like a critter smell, or they start to work like maybe other dog smell, I see, like if I'm looking at the dog, I see a very different type of scenting than they do when they're seeking.
Yeah.
And when they're actually looking for target odor, whether or not they're in target odor, right? They seem to get onto a spot and they get very still. Like you're going to see a lot of stillness in your dog, and they're going to slow down, and they're going to kind of do this rapid fire sniffing in a very like small spot. And you're going to see like their body, their musculature starts to stiffen, like their body starts to stiffen.
Both Crystal and the paw.
The one foot sometimes comes up, right? Like if it's like a very like a weird smell, or kind of a or a dog.
Like all the dogs turn into pointers, even when they're not pointers.
Yes,
right.
Everybody turns into a pointer.
Right. But even if they don't do that, like that, that's the type of like you need to be able to see and people say, well, what do you do? I'm like, we disengage it. We stop that. This is where, like, if I'm teaching, my students are all like, yeah, we're always talking about clean behavior chains. It's like, I'm constantly harping on a clean behavior chain, because if you don't want to build that into your behavior chain, because if you're searching and you include that as a part of your search, that's now a part of how your dog searches.
Right.
Stop that crap.
And that's one of those reasons why we do be careful about when you're starting to do blinds.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. One of the other things in this little post was about teaching a second hide. And I think we have talked about in a couple of different podcasts, and I know Stacy's got classes and I've got classes and whatever, on teaching go find another. And it's actually a very distinct sequence of behaviors to teach them that we're dismissing this hide and we're going to go find another one. And so the verbal diarrhea that people have when they think that they're encouraging their dogs sometimes, then it can be detrimental in your training. It can be distracting to your dog. So let's concentrate on using hides and being conscious of what skill we're working on, train our dog.
Something I love is on my CB Canine group in Facebook. People are just so good. Like they're so good about commenting and giving such great feedback. Like I've built such a nice little community there.
That's
I just love them.
because you have really thoughtful posts.
You do, and you model it. And I'm just
You do.
If I didn't know Crystal, I'd be like, this is the fakest person I've ever met, because she's just like always positive.
Oh,
I'm like, what the heck? Nobody's that nice and positive. But I actually know it's real.
You guys are too kind.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's actually her. Like she's
right.
You're too nice.
Yeah. She's not snarky. I had a lot of snark come out lately. But
I know. I'm like, if I'm going to snark, I go straight to Robin. And I'm like, I got to snark here, because otherwise I'd be like.
Well, Deb Thompson, one of our friends that has been out to Canine Census a lot and trained, she made such a good observation. And it was kind of going along the lines what you just said, where it was find another. And she ran into a problem where it just wasn't making sense to her dog, Briss. And Briss is a brilliant golden retriever.
She's lovely. They're both lovely.
Such a great team, right?
Yeah.
And what she found was it was a simple thing, but even by saying find another, find was her search cue.
Right.
And as soon as she took find out of it and she just said another, it was that little piece that clarified it for Briss. And it was... I
saw this write-up and I was like, she couldn't hear me, but I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. All the way from Iowa.
I was just so proud of her. And it was a couple things she discovered just like that, where sometimes our words do get in our way. And so I guess I just wanted to share that little insight from her that she had shared with us, and then kind of put that here too for even more people to hear, because my little group's kind of little. So
it'll be big soon.
I just thought that was a nice thing.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know I use, like in nose work, I use search and then I use find another. I had never really thought about how those two words are very different. I think that's a really great reflection.
And I just ran into it in the backyard because I use go away to like, just go away, just get away from me kind of thing for Checkmate. And I use go for Radish for her send away. And Checkmate has been with me whenever I'm training Radish, her go for send away. And I'm having the darndest time with Checkmate understanding to wrap around an object. Like, it's not a hard task. We've done it since he was a puppy and he's what, like 6 years old? And I'm like, really? Like, it's not that hard. And I changed it from go to wrap. He picked it up in 2 sessions.
Oh.
And I think there was way too much tied into his brain about what go meant. It just meant go a direction. And so he was using it for directionals. He was finding tables that were across the yard. I'm like, we haven't done that at all. We've gone around this little bug zapper thing, because that's the only round thing that I had in the yard to go around. And so the clarity sometimes of those words can really make a difference. And just in 2 sessions from go to wrap, and just like for Briss, from going find to another instead of find another, and tying those together. So just be thoughtful about your words, because sometimes that's where the loss of clarity comes in. And I also, Stacy, I like where you said about building the desire. This is back a couple sentences ago. But also,
a couple rants ago.
Yeah, I also want to say building the understanding, because I'm really struggling with Checkmate. I feel like I cannot somehow communicate to him the fundamental idea that in IGP tracking, you need to put your nose, and Robin said we don't want robots, but in IGP, we do want robots. And so it really, it's this challenging thing. And I'm having the hardest time getting him to have the fundamental idea that it's about putting your nose in each footprint. And so I think it's beyond, it's the drive for it, but also such a clear understanding of what your task is. Because he's still, in my mind, when I watch him, I've been watching all the videos back, I'm watching all my training back, and I'm really trying hard to figure this out. And it feels like he is searching for either lure bits, like little pieces of food that I've put, or he's searching for articles. And he still isn't putting it together that it's the footprint that gets it for you. So I think I have to go back to how I started it, of having like washers and nails in the ground. So the articles are so challenging that they are hidden in the footprint again, to really get him back to that programming. I know it's kind of robotic, but that programming of every single footprint to find that little thing. So again, it's that the lack of understanding can also be part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's so hard. It's just
hard.
Oh, I'm so frustrated right now.
That's the hard part about training, is like sometimes you really do have to like dial it back to go forward.
And you have challenging dogs sometimes that just aren't naturally getting it. I mean, Radish and Yukon both just naturally get it. And Checkmate does not. He does not have a natural nose. He does not have a hunt drive that's anything close to any other of the working dogs I've had. You know, like Radish, I can pretend throw a toy and she will go hunt in that field. And I do it just sometimes because that's all the time I have. And she'll go hunt for, usually I put a timer on for about 6 minutes. And then I'll throw the ball somewhere else when she's not looking, so that she can happen upon it. Because otherwise she would have found it in like 30 seconds.
Right. Yep.
That's what I have to do, because to fulfill some of my brain power needs where I don't have the time to do the thing, like that's how because that's what they love to do.
Right.
If I do that for a Checkmate, he's going to go out and he's going to look for a few seconds, and then he's going to go roll on something and just go for a stroll and come back and say, let's do something else.
What it does come down like some things the dogs are just more naturally what they enjoy, like, or naturally inclined to do. I kind of, my mind went to trying to teach Powder any kind of duration behavior. It's kind of the same thing. It is so anti-Powder.
Yeah.
That just trying to teach anything with stillness is so hard. And I think when I was out in Iowa, and it was really fascinating. I know it's a little bit of a digression, but it's a little bit about training, right? Where I was struggling to get her to hold a bumper, right? And then all of a sudden I started to reward the bumper with motion by just throwing a cookie. I got the bumper hold with me walking around the room in one session. And it was just literally, I had to like change up how I reinforced her, because she cannot, like, the whole idea of staying still is just not Powder.
Yeah. And I was talking to somebody about progression plans, right? Because it's one of my students in the academy. And they were literally at the point where they were like, oh my God, Robin, you were talking about how every single step in the progression plan is the same. I follow the same progression plan for every single dog. But how I go from step to step
Yes.
depends on how that dog learns.
Right.
And it's very interesting because I was talking to somebody else about directionals, and I was like, here's the 5 different points where I can make a decision point on where to reinforce when I'm trying to add distance and duration onto a directional.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, wow, still lumping. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, because if you're having a problem with them getting a concept, even them turning to look at the right base is a reinforceable behavior.
So can I merge those 2 ideas together? So your idea of directionals and Stacy talking about duration. If we kind of go back to our original question about rewarding on nose time or rewarding on searching. I know it was so perfect because something that Robin had talked about when we were chatting beforehand, we were talking about, well, what happens if you are on a really long deployment? Like if you're like we were in Joplin for a couple days and watching the dogs work and we never found the girl. And so, I mean, she ended up being safe in another state. It was great. Yeah. So it was a happy ending. So I'm glad we didn't find her, but the dogs are searching for 2 full days.
Right.
Some people would say, don't reward them ever. And they say that the dog will start lacking motivation and they have to just build more intensity and more drive to go longer. And I don't know that I really agree with that. And especially watching different handlers with their dogs, I liked what Robin said. So go ahead and share, please.
Well, and Sherry, one of the other handlers on Nebraska Task Force 1 with me, we've been roommates a lot of the time when we deploy. So we've been having a lot of these conversations as we're going through. And we're like, how do we keep our dogs motivated given that there's probably not odor out there? What else can we do? So Sherry has this little tiny border whippet who is amazingly awesome. And as we were having this discussion, she's like, well, I've started rewarding him for doing directionals during a search. And the whole fact that he's out there hunting and we're doing all of the things, and I ask him to go back and he turns around and goes over this really difficult, burned out house. And she goes, I'll give him a yes because he took the directional and he'll come back and we'll play. And then I send him back out to search. And so given the type of things that we're asking especially the FEMA dogs to do in those situations, finding an opportunity for a behavior that you ask the dog to do, to go out and reinforce them is awesome. Because one of the things that I'll do for Nico is and I did it for him when we were on a recent deployment he was searching for a really, really long time. I knew we were done. So I recalled him back into me, and I asked him for applause. And he laid down and I gave him his toy because he did the behavior I asked him to do. He didn't get a whole bunch of tug and all sorts of things, but he's like, oh, hey, Carl's still in play. So it becomes on those longer deployments. And one of the things I did with my very first dog is we were out doing wilderness searching and I needed him to learn to take a break. So I actually taught him, come back, lie down, and I will feed you cookies while you're in a down in the shade, because I also could feed the machine.
Yeah.
So he could keep his energy up. So it's it's something like that of finding something in a operational setting like that where you can reinforce the dog for a behavior. It may not be their A+ reinforcer, but it's a reinforcer. And by the way, Nico is back to really wanting string cheese for stuff. So, yeah. He thinks
how's he healing up? Is his paw okay?
His paw's fully healed up.
Good.
Actually, by the time this airs, staples will be out. He's
awesome.
110% back and is like, dude, mom, when's the next one?
Nice. So he's leaving it alone and everything. What a good boy.
Literally 2 days after we got home, he ran out of his bandage and I checked it and I'm like, okay, you're okay. So I got to take the staple out of one part of his leg and he laid there for that. And I looked at the staples in his foot and said, yeah, I'm going to wait for those on the vet.
He's just ridiculous. I mean, at the farm, even we're just right there stapling his leg in the basement. I mean, the dog is just a machine. He's amazing.
He's ridiculously clear-headed. And we did lots lots of vet stuff with a toy in his mouth. And he learned even if he's lying on his back, he can push his toy out of his mouth and it drops on the floor. Somebody will pick it up and stick it back in his mouth. So that became a huge game.
Oh my
I'm like, okay, friend.
So I guess for those of you
dogs.
who are listening, they're probably like, why does he have staples?
Yeah.
We were on deployment and Nico stepped on some razor wire. And so I saw the barbed wire. I saw the chain link. I missed the razor wire on a downed fence. So he ended up with staples. And then we were basically searching through some other really ugly multifloral rose and other things. And he put a slice in his shin on the same leg. So he's all healed up and it just added to scars. I've never had a dog with so many scars.
Oh my goodness.
You can tell when he
earned.
gets wet. You can tell when he gets wet. He's got like, here's the 5 barbed wire scars.
well earned scars.
Yes.
Yeah.
So takeaways.
I keep going back to the focus stuff. And I already messaged Deb, just so you know. And so,
Yay. You don't mess around.
I know. I just messaged her and said we were talking about her. She's like, oh no. I'm like, no, it's good.
No, it's good. When can you come back? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm excited about that and about digging more into and thinking about the focus aspect, because I've been really obsessed with that in a lot of different aspects. And I think I got excited about that today. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess a lot of my takeaway is about the clean behavior chain and really thinking about what are you reinforcing and making sure that what your dog is doing is something that you want to replicate later. If you're not sure, back it up a little bit and make sure that whatever your dog is doing is something that you want to replicate in the future. So clean behavior chain.
My takeaway, and this has been one that I've been thinking a lot about lately because of some of the people I'm watching train, and I'm talking about my mentors or the people I want to emulate when I train. They don't talk very much. And so my question when I start doing stuff, and I've noticed that when I get really nervous, I talk a lot to my dog. So the question is, are you talking to make yourself feel better, or are you talking because you think your dog needs it? And does your dog really need it if you are talking? So that's the question I've started asking myself a lot when I find myself talking. So that's kind of my whole takeaway for this, and to really have people be self-aware when
I think that's a lot of what we've talked about it today too, is just the self-awareness piece of reading our dogs better and being more aware of how we are reacting and interacting with our dogs.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Okay, ladies, I believe this particular episode, and the reason I'm giving you a date is because this will allow you to make a selection on what you are going to talk about, what you're up to. I believe this particular episode is going live on November 12th. What would you like people to know that you're up to?
I'm taking a break.
Yeah. Okay. Crystal, you've got finals coming up. You just have been in Wisconsin.
Yeah. I will have just been back from Wisconsin, and we'll have just been back from Emily Lawrence is coming to town, and Nina, my friend, is coming to town, and we're having a big IGP trial. And it's just right now, I'm like, this is the only night that I had any time to carve away to be able to chat and be here with y'all. So,
right. So you're taking a break. So that's good.
Yeah. I might get a webinar going on Fenzi is kind of my hopes for the winter.
My webinar on Fenzi will have just played last Thursday. So maybe if you're lucky, you can still find it. It's about taking a seat on what happens when your training goes sideways. Canine Census also has released a webinar about an introduction to canine search and rescue. So if you're interested in getting involved in canine search and rescue, this is the nitty gritty. This is what you need to know about getting involved in a really kind of exhausting but satisfying volunteer profession. And then I will have some webinars coming up yet this fall. Registration for Distraction Camp 1, Handler, Intentional Handling, and Hide Setting, and MUTC all goes live December 1st.
Oh, I think I'd go to MUTC this year now.
Yay!
Because they're talking about if we don't have 8 snow days, then they're going to move the last day of school up and I can be there.
That would be lovely. Yay.
That's awesome.
Yay,
I just
team.
learned that today.
And so we've got MUTC plus I might have a few other things going on this summer, but the big thing will be the Academy starting January 5th. I'm only taking 10 students. So I think I might be full already for spring semester.
Wow.
And then so I'll do another semester in the fall. So keep that in mind. So yep, the canine census stuff should be coming out all on the website. The distraction camp and intentional handling registration will go live on the podcast website. We'll make sure and put up links and all sorts of things.
And I've got on November 22nd, that's when classes open, and for the December term. And I've got 3 classes that I'll be teaching. One of them is NW 170. It's the building blocks of nose work. That's before odor. That's just basically just hunting for food and teaching the dog how to, for dogs that just need to kind of understand how to work in new environments and that sort of thing. And if you want to do that before putting them on odor, that's a whole class about that. I also have my foundations for nose work, which is NW 270 class. That's a fantastic class. It's all about the foundational pieces for dogs that are currently searching. And it's kind of like when you think about that phrase, go back to foundations, people are like, well, what does that really mean? And it's a class all about that. And then I have a brand new class, NW 530, which is the upper levels, building skills for elite and summit. That's a brand new class that I'm teaching. So there's that. And I'm doing a webinar, an up and coming webinar, which will be on the 21st. So Thursday, the 21st. And that's actually going to be a little bit of a teaser for the new Elite and Summit class. So it's all going to be on the skills for Elite and Summit.
Very cool. Thank you, ladies. As always, it's fun. I'm excited we've already got our next couple episodes scheduled and they are interviews.
Yes, we've got a lot of interviews coming up.
We've got a lot of interviews coming up. So make sure you stay tuned. Please give us a like and a share. We greatly appreciate all of you if you do that. And also, please remember to send us your ideas because this whole topic that we came about was off of the form that's out on the Facebook page that somebody sent us. Hey, can you please talk about this? So thank you all very much for tuning in and go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.